1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. About to go on my journey. Journey back into the past. Not sure what I'll find when I get there, but at least I'm making the trip. It's a weird, almost magical, aloof feeling of just taking off in your car and just driving someplace. It's kind of a weird freedom. You don't know what you're going to find when you get there. And why am I making the destination in the first place? Am I going to some sort of surreal landscape of past memories that I left behind? A childhood home? It's like wandering back into the Twilight Zone episodes, but in real life. It's a weird travel destination to make for a day. Who or what and what things will I experience? It's all left in my imagination. It's this weird anticipation of somehow finding something that I was looking for, that was perhaps lost back there. Is there something back there that I want to rediscover? Do I feel like I'm some sort of explorer going back into my memories, into my past? Am I just curious about how things have changed? People go on vacations to escape. This is sort of a escape back into my past. I'm not actually going there to visit anyone in particular or specifically. I'm really just revisiting a feeling, revisiting a memory. It's like nostalgia incarnate. It's all there. It's some mythical place that I left a long time ago. Back when I was 18 years old. And I spent all my life, all those first 18 years of my life, I was waiting to get out of that town. And now for this one day, or half a day, I'm going to go back and just re-experience it, relive it, take my camera and recapture it. That's the mission for today. That's what I wanted to do. I know it's kind of a weird vacation of sorts, but it's one I've been wanting to make for actually quite a few years now. I just do it by myself. It had to be by myself. There's some things you got to do by yourself. It had to be this very private, personal journey. The other reason to come out here is mainly because it was just an utterly perfect day. Low 70s, clear, blue skies. Couldn't have picked a better day to go. And I was off from work. I was free. I could do whatever I wanted. Whatever I wanted. So I decided to go back to my old haunts, to my favorite places. Reconnect. I was treating myself to my childhood again. A nostalgic trip. I went back to all the places I used to love going to when I was a child and a teenager. Going to the library, going to the video store. Those are the main places to go to when you grew up in a small town with little to do. I went back to the school where I went, as well as where I worked as a custodian for 3 years, and where my parents both worked as high school teachers. It was a big part of my life. No schedule, no real destination. Just drifting back. Trying to recapture something. Like accelerating into a dream. Trying to walk in some old footsteps of the places I used to go. Walk the same streets I used to walk back when I was a kid, walking back from school. How powerful that would be, that personal connection. And not many other people could see it, feel it, but it's there. Lacing and lining every single street and avenue in this small town. I think I'm also trying to go back to Coldwater just to get it out of my system. I keep thinking about the place sometimes.
It's called Back to Nature. Oh, Back to Nature.
Kind of overlooking all its faults and flaws and all the bad things that have happened there. But maybe if I go back, I won't think about it anymore. I won't need to go back here for another decade or 2 decades. I'll just finally realize, see it in person, that it's just a small little town. A town you can drive through literally in 2 to 3 minutes. Going 25 miles an hour. Yeah, it's that small. It's really nothing magical. But in my brain, in my memories, there's something there. There's this feeling. There's this innocence there. Maybe that's what I'm trying to recapture. Maybe I want that peace. Maybe that's the destination. Maybe that's this is like the national park for me. It's a strange world out here, infinitely different than the city. I mean, what's out here to do? I mean, it's farming, growing corn, and playing sports. That's about it. What if your ambitions are beyond those things? They certainly were for me. So that's why I wanted out. I never go back to Coldwater because it's such a long drive. It's 2 hours driving through cornfields. Endless cornfields. It was all starting to feel uncannily like that old episode of The Twilight Zone where the guy goes back to his hometown and wanders the streets trying to reconnect with his childhood. I was talking about going back here again, and as I'm looking around, I saw this older woman riding a bicycle and smiling, and she immediately reminded me of my mother. So in a way, going back to my hometown reminds me of kind of reconnecting with my memories of my mom and what it would have been like if she had lived past that car accident that she happened to be in. That was of no fault of her own. So coming back here by myself is just this, uniquely cathartic journey. I'm purging emotions. Some sort of therapy trip, perhaps. I guess you could say there's a lot of unresolved emotions inside me. And that's why I came back. Since I was born and raised in Coldwater, Ohio. Would my mother be proud of me? In some ways, I think she would be. She'd be so happy I was married and had a little girl. It's too bad she never lived to see that. I've had so many dreams about, going back to my hometown, living in my old home on Marion Drive, that it's just, mind-bogglingly surreal to actually drive through the areas that I've dreamed about, maybe hundreds of times. It never really fully leaves you. always there. It's always, some presence in your subconscious mind. And that's why it's, coming back here is so uniquely powerful, especially by yourself. Gosh. It's all my dreams are here in this town. On these empty boulevards, these empty streets that seemingly look deserted, even though it's a perfect 65 degrees. But this is where I biked. This is where I took walks. This is where I grew up. It's forever a part of myself. It won't fully let go. It's always going to be there. There's also a little bit of a joy coming back here as basically just a stranger. People don't know who you are. Kind of wish that I was that way when I lived here, considering how much I got teased. It's kind of a brutal childhood in such a Christian community. All those little dark corners. Because if you're different, you're not going to be fitting in that well. After a few hours here in my hometown, I started to feel a little suffocated. Like, it was nice to visit here for part of the day, but I needed to be moving on. And that was a metaphor for my childhood and teenage years. It was nice to be here for a while, but I needed to move on. I needed to grow beyond this place. My hometown is sort of a ghost town. It's where all my past ghosts are stored and living there still. It's a ghost town because you don't see that many people outside. It's a ghost town because this is all the ghosts of my memories are all located through these streets. It's all over the place. And yet, I cannot deny that it was a fun day. I explored. I reached out with a sense of curiosity and with a touch of creativity. Re-experienced my life and childhood, teenage years, adolescence. It was like a time travel trip, vacation. How much is that worth? Half a tank of gas, it turns out. A couple meals for, one for lunch, one for dinner. And dinner I had at my favorite Mexican restaurant at Casa Rodriguez. I am haunted by nostalgia of these places. Yet I had such a horrible time growing up here with the bullying and the boredom. And yet, as I grow older, I feel such a fondness for how peaceful and quiet it seemed to be when I was a child. It was a good day.